So thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn this over to Caryl and let her share her screen and take things away.
Well, first, thank you all so much for being here. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces and folks that we've worked with over the years, and also great to see new faces as well. My name is Caryl Montero-Adams. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I serve as the Director of Student Life and Leadership. I am co-presenting today with Rogelio Becerra Songolo, and I will let him introduce himself as well.
Hi, everybody. Rogelio Becerra Songolo. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the Assistant Director for Commuter Life. And yeah, happy to be here.
So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. To kind of provide a brief overview, we'll talk about the mission and purpose of Commuter Life. We'll talk about our success pathways, the Commuter Resource Center, which is a physical space, obviously not accessing now, but we'll talk about what the center does and the programs that we've moved into the virtual environment, our mentoring programs, Alliance for Commuter Involvement, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. You're also welcome to ask questions throughout, whether it's putting them in the chat or any of the functions that Zoom has, whether it's raising hands or just unmute yourself as well. With that, one of the things to note is Commuter Life is one of the 4 functional areas within the Office of Student Life and Leadership. And so before we dive into Commuter, we also want to talk about broadly the mission of the department. So with that, Student Life and Leadership promotes student engagement, development, and success. We provide a balanced university experience for our diverse community through teaching, advising, and programming. So while today we'll be talking about Commuter Life, the other areas, which include student organizations and activities, fraternity and sorority life, and the Glaser Center for Leadership and Service, will be reviewed in future sessions over the next couple of weeks. So looking at Commuter Life, as part of SLL, Commuter Life aims to support and engage students living at home and commuting to campus through workshops, peer mentoring programs, and other support services to foster student success and a positive connection to the San Diego State University community. So one of the things that, and the center is relatively new in the last decade, and it's something that we have really built in order to foster that connection and community. So everything that we're doing is working towards supporting our students and their endeavors on campus, whether that's curricularly or co-curricularly, ultimately building community and connection to foster and support their success. So one of the first ways that we do this is through our Commuter Student Success Pathways for our first year students. And so we'll kind of talk about this to start because this is really an entry point. And the commuter student experience even begins before the fall semester starts. So there are a couple of different touch points, and I know a couple of you have been involved with them in the past, and so want to recognize your partnership in that. So the first is our commuter student receptions. Every May and June, we welcome incoming students who have submitted their intent to enroll. And we host commuter student receptions that invite the student as well as their supporters, their families, to campus or within the community, depending on the reception, where we really provide an overview of all of the different resources that the campus community offers, as well as what are some things that they need to know over the summer and as they come into the fall semester. One of the other things that we do at this point is we identify what our students' interests, their majors, and other important and pertinent information in order to identify a pathway. So this is really that first entry point that provides us with the opportunity to, one, engage and start to foster that sense of community and connection, but also look at how we're gaining information from our students in order to identify a pathway that best supports them in their process. We then move into our scheduling. And so I know some of you have also been involved with our batch load process. And so with that, that is something that takes place following the receptions in the month of June and in the very beginning of July, where we identify the different pathway that our commuter students will be assigned to. This year, that also included the opportunity to pre-enroll students, and so we'll talk about that into their first schedule. We'll talk about that in more detail in a moment. We also engage students at new student orientation, so both with our tabling element for as a campus resource, but also in the registration labs. We have a team of folks who are there to help answer any questions and support students as they are either completing their registration, or in this case, over this past summer, we had virtual labs where folks were able to connect on Zoom. And then lastly, we facilitate an in-college shape program that takes place historically the week before the academic year. And it's a day-long opportunity for students to connect. They meet their university seminar instructor and have the opportunity to get acclimated to campus, learn where their classes are, so on and so forth. And while that looked obviously different this year, that is a program that is another one of those touch points before the fall semester even begins. So when we think about our pathways, there are a variety of goals that we have, obviously, and outcomes, and then the impact that we see with students who participate in the pathways. So first, to build relationship with peers, faculty, and staff. We want the commuter student experience to be more than just coming onto campus, going to class, and then leaving. We really want to foster that community, that connection, so that students feel a sense of belonging on campus and are in community with others. And so the university seminar provides a small community feel with a cohort of students that might be built around common academic or social interests. So whether it's a similar major or specific interests that they've identified, there are opportunities to enter a university seminar that makes sense for them, or a pathway that makes sense for them, and then receive academic support from one course and build skills to apply it more deeply in another. And so those are some of the opportunities that the pathways provide. Some of the impacts that we see is students tend to achieve a deeper understanding of course material, have confidence in their academic work, have higher GPAs and lower instances of academic probation, and then have a higher satisfaction with campus life. Again, looking at that robust co-curricular experience and how we're contributing to that overall. So I mentioned we'll dive deeper into the pathways. There are 3 specific pathways that we're going to talk about today. So the first is a FIG, or a freshman interest group. This is a 1-unit university seminar course, typically General Studies 100A. We also have a couple where we've partnered with different colleges that might have a different title to it, but really looking at how we are engaging first-time freshmen. Sometimes the focus might be on a specific identity or a specific interest, and work with their students, again, at those receptions to identify what pathway might be appropriate or right for them. The second is looking at, and so sorry, didn't realize there was animation there, is looking at our commuter learning communities. And so this is a course package that typically has 5 or 6 units. Again, one of those university seminar courses. And in addition, it would include a GE course and a discussion and analysis. Again, trying to build that community connection. The courses in this package will feature the same students. So the same students that they have in their university seminar course are peers that they'll see in, for example, Introduction to Sociology and a discussion and analysis course for that sociology course. And so there's some opportunity to really, again, build community while also supporting student engagement and their success on campus. This is just one example. There are several others as it relates to our learning communities. This year, we had, as I mentioned, a unique opportunity to pilot a new initiative. And so students in specific majors had the opportunity to be enrolled in a full schedule of 15 or 16 units, depending, to be pre-registered in their courses. This is really to maximize those course offerings for students, and was determined based on the credit that they were bringing, the interest that they had, their academic major. And again, this was something that was really piloted in a couple of different colleges. So arts and letters, education, business, and PSFA were all of the colleges that had their incoming students pre-registered in a package. I will acknowledge that this was something that this pre-registration did not only just take place in Commuter Life, it was something that was also facilitated in the residential education office. And so we worked collaboratively with a broad team to ensure that this occurred. The last thing to mention with this is they were all built based off of recommendations from the college. So it wasn't just our teams placing students, it was an intentional schedule that was consistent with their map, and really wanting, again, to ensure that students are on track, especially as they're coming into the university. We know, based on assessment that's been conducted over the last decade, that students who participate in a pathway earn higher GPAs, have a higher first to second year retention rate, and demonstrate higher graduation rates, and are less likely to be on academic probation than their commuter student peers who are not in a pathway. And so our goal at this point, and we have definitely grown over the years, is to enroll all students in some sort of pathway, whether that is a learning community, a pre-registered schedule, or a one-unit seminar. And there are very few exceptions this year where that took place, and that was for specific programs that it wouldn't necessarily allow for those students to be registered. So for the most part, all of our students, especially this year, were enrolled in a university seminar or another pathway. And with that, I will pass it over to Rogelio.
Thank you, Caryl. Yeah, honestly, with the pathways, the Commuter Resource Center, and everything else that that we're going to be talking about, it makes me honestly very proud to be part of an institution that really responded to the kind of feedback that we were receiving from students. And what I mean by that is that you know, these initiatives that Caryl was just mentioning, you know, they were born out of troubling and honestly at times heartbreaking feedback that we received from students back in around 2015, especially the students who were commuting from the South Bay area, particularly the communities like right on the border. For example, one student to us mentioned that the only place that they truly felt like they were at home was in their car, in their parking spot. You know, of course, immediately this meant a call to action for SLL and the university as a whole. And one of the most impactful responses that the university created was the Commuter Resource Center, or otherwise known as a CRC, and I'm going to continue referring to it as a CRC. The center offers a dedicated space. Thank you. This center offers a dedicated space for the students who commute to campus, primarily first and second year students. And by the way, as we continue talking about commuter students, the way that the university that we identify commuter students as is students from the local service area who are not living on campus. Where was I? Yeah, so it offers a dedicated space to campus, like I said. And, you know, we know how difficult it can be for these students to acculturate to campus. So this serves as a home base for students, you know, a sort of home away from home, as we like to put it. This space also offers many amenities that can prove vital to some students, like a study space, access to computers, microwaves, refrigerators, you know, TV, laptop connections, and more. And it really is, it could be a sort of a make it or break it kind of situation for a student that, you know, may not necessarily be able to afford, you know, buying lunch or dinner or even breakfast every single day. So their ability to, you know, to have a space where they know that they can go to, where they know that they can put their fridge, or when, you know, they know that if they have like a 3-hour gap, they can go and hang out there, study there, do homework there. It has been very impactful, and we know that we have received a lot of positive feedback through it. If you can go to the next slide, thank you. Perhaps one of the biggest components of the CRC is the level of engagement activities that we produce and we coordinate throughout the school year. When we were on campus, we were averaging about you know, 1 to 2 events per week. which definitely kept us very, very busy, but they were very popular events that we were putting on. The most popular being the Commuter Coffee Hour, which offered, sort of a 1 hour a month time for space to, commuter students to come in, together, check in with one another over coffee, pastries. And, we also coordinated a lot of programs, or we also coordinate, we continue to do it, but to a different extent, programs with, career services, the Office of Financial Aid, Wellbeing and Health Promotion, and, just a plethora of other campus partners. Now, as we look to the rest of the semester, we are focusing on more social / relationship building activities, given some of the feedback that we're receiving from students that, if times if they're going to be spending time in front of a computer, they just might as well do it on something that, where they can just have fun and just, sort of have that time to relax. And, we know that all of our different campus partners have heightened, to a big extent, the amount of workshops and events that they're putting on to provide their services or to showcase their services. So our need to partner with those offices is not as high per se as it used to be. Obviously, we continue to advertise them and advocate for them, but then that sort of releases that time for us to focus on different events. So when you're talking about partnering with student organizations, or when you talk about partnering with Compact Scholars, so really just something that is not necessarily information-based in a sense, if that makes sense. It's where we have seen a lot of our success this semester and what we're going to be continuing to work on. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So up next, we're going to be talking about Commuter Life's 2 mentoring programs that we have. The first one being the Commuter Life Academic Mentoring. And this is a mentoring program that is, again, that was part of the initial success pathway that Caryl discussed and that I was mentioning earlier, that started way back in 2015. It was part of this learning community that that Caryl was mentioning, and we like to think of it almost as Russian dolls, right? So like the overarching thing, sort of paradigm was learning community, but it had the lecture, it had the discussion analysis, it had the university seminar, but it also had academic mentoring. This CLAM, as we refer to it, has definitely evolved throughout the years. We definitely still have, it's all still for commuter students, and a big part of the population is students from the South Bay area, which is how this was born. But it is a service that's provided by mentors who are sophomores, juniors, or seniors, and perhaps at times graduate students as well, who are paired with first-year commuter students in these learning communities, like I said. They provide general guidance and assistance to these mentees as they experience a transition from high school to university life. And it's one of those things that it wasn't created out of thin air. It has been part of sort of ongoing and yearly assessment that we conduct in partnership with, in collaboration with our campus partners at DESA. And again, something that we really take pride in is the strong partnerships that we have built cross-divisionally with folks, sort of strengthening the idea that helping students throughout college is a holistic endeavor, right? It's not compartmentalized, and these kinds of partnerships really speak to that. If you can go to the next slide, please. So the sophomore search program pairs obviously sophomore students, and again, we're talking about students from the local service area who are not living on campus, and they're paired with either a junior, senior, or at times a graduate student who serves as a mentor and provides resources needed during the sophomore year. These mentees meet with their mentors about 8 times each semester. The mentor also supports the career and major exploration aspect of the student development, connects them to high impact practices. So, whether you're talking about studying abroad or internships or research, especially as a sophomore student, it's not necessarily the most intrinsic idea that, as a sophomore student, like, hey, I should start thinking about research. It's something that we definitely focus on. We provide opportunities for self-reflection. We introduce and reinforce importance of campus involvement and leadership, and we're going to talk about campus involvement more specifically in a second. And it also engages students identified on academic probation. And we know that this has proven successful in the past, as we help them to return to good academic standing. The mentor is expected to, again, provide this advice to the students, to refer students to relevant campus resources, to act as a professional role model. Really is what it comes down to, especially since these students, these mentors are much closer to that graduation timeline, to entering the workforce, to consider or applying to graduate school. If we can move on to the next one. So the Alliance for Commuter Involvement, and as referred to A4CI, it's a certificate program that supports students in making the most out of their 4 years at the Leadership Center University. These students participate in programs focused on leadership, service learning, mentoring, skills development, and campus engagement.
It looks like I can still see you all. So Rogelio may have temporarily frozen. So I can go ahead.
Oh, no.
Oh, perfect. You're back. Great. Thank you.
Of course. My internet. Let's see. Where did I leave off?
The last we heard was 4-year program.
Oh my God. Okay. Sorry about that. So it is a 4-year program that supports students in making the most out of their years at Leadership Center University. Did you hear that part?
Yep. Potentially just going into kind of what are some of the general themes for each year.
Yeah, really the themes that you're looking at is from the get-go, just joining and recognized student organization. We know that developing a sense of belonging at the university is extremely important. Feeling that you can leave a mark here at the university is vital to a student, or it's essential for a student to complete a 4-year degree. And we know that joining a student organization is a perfect way and an easy way to do that. Whether you're talking about attending committee meetings or actually even being in the executive board, it's important to also joining a mentoring program. Those are the sort of the echelons, the things that we ask students to focus on their first year. Their second year, continue to do what you were expected or asked to do the first year, as well as attending Ask Ignites events or any other kind of events, but specifically those at the beginning of the year. Look at community service, participate in leadership certificates, and other things that we know are going to prove useful for a student as they enter the workforce. Now, third-year students, or rather first-year transfer students, are also part of this this program. So we know that we have a substantial amount of students who are going to be transferring. So we definitely want to make sure that we're casting a net for those students. And at that point, you're talking about applying to internships, meeting with your major advisor, joining an alumni mentor program, among other things. And lastly, their fourth year, you're talking about committing to an on-campus job, or maybe really looking at an internship that you took the previous year or the previous summer, and trying to look at whether that can actually result in you continuing at the university, or rather continuing through that job, attending student conferences, academic counseling, among other things. That is all I have for that. Go ahead.
Okay. So in closing, there are a couple things we'll highlight, but one of the things that Rogelio mentioned is really looking at the partnerships that we have within Commuter Life. So emphasizing that they are cross-divisional, that they are vital to the success and the support of the students. And so want to acknowledge that whether it's some of you who are here today or others that we work with, really highlighting Dr. Steven Schellenberg, as well as Dr. Marilee Bresciani Ludwig, really want to highlight some of the work that they're doing within this program, whether it's developing curriculum, or for some of y'all supporting the specific programs that we have or partnering to serve our students overall. So just want to thank you all for the partnership, as well as acknowledge some folks who aren't here. Each year we kind of do a at-a-glance overview with some end-of-year highlights, and so this provides some of that. So looking at this is from the 2019-20 academic year. So Rogelio mentioned that there are often programs that are occurring once or twice a week. Within the fall 2019 semester, we had 46 different events or workshops that students could participate in, and then in spring 20, before we moved into the virtual environment, we had already had 28. In last year, over 1,300 students were in a success pathway. This year, that number has increased, which we're really excited about, and it's to nearly all. Last year, there were 220 students first-time freshmen who were paired with a mentor. And so whether that was meeting weekly or bi-weekly, and that ongoing connection, we also saw that many students, once we transitioned to the virtual environment, stayed in their mentoring relationship that they had with their mentor. And so we found that community and connection piece was just as vital as we were shifting into the virtual space. And then this year, there's a full committee that we have the opportunity to be part of that looks at mentoring and success coaching in the virtual environment. And this is something that we're continuing into this academic year. 152 sophomore students were paired with a mentor. And then every year we have a ceremony for our graduating students. As Rogelio mentioned, there's the opportunity to look at folks who have completed the A4CI program. And we had 12 complete it this past year and moved our ceremony to the virtual environment, which was very exciting. So just want to acknowledge these are some of our highlights as it relates to our overarching Commuter Life program. And then at this point, we just want to say thank you so much for engaging us in conversation, again, for your partnership. This is how you can get a hold of either one or both of us, and want to open it up for any questions that you all may have.
It looks like we have one already. Are commuter pathways required for all commuter students? Did we answer that one? I'm sorry.
We haven't, no, but if you want to go ahead, that would be perfect.
Sure. We were tasked, or we have been tasked to making sure that every single commuter student is in some sort of a pathway. And the way that we define that is obviously through these classes or through these packages that Caryl just talked about. But oftentimes it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be one of our packages. So, you know, you're talking about athletes or nursing students or dance students or music students. They have their own set of curriculum that they have to follow. And in itself, that is a pathway. That is whether it's one of ours or not, it's something that I really appreciate that Dr. Tim, the Dean of Students, mentions, is that, you know, he's like, I don't care which one it is, you know, like it doesn't have to be a commuter pathway as long as they're in one. So, you know, we place a lot of emphasis and make sure that that's the case. That's a great question.
I have a question. I'm just curious, given where we are right now and the situation with all the online classes and things. And I know that for the commuter students that the center itself is an important sort of space. Let me turn this on. So I'm just curious kind of how, as you've been talking to students this fall, how they're doing and kind of how, and what the center's been doing to kind of try and recreate that space for them.
You want me to?
Yeah, that would be perfect. You can start and then I can always add in.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, like what I was saying, this new environment has offered a lot of space for us to re-envision, these events that we used to put together. A lot of them were social already in nature, but it has meant that we just simply created a space for them to come together and, I don't want to say do nothing, but really just there to talk amongst one another and create that community that we used to have in person. The Commuter Coffee Hour, for example, like I was saying, our flagship event that we used to have, wasn't necessarily structured, in the sense that, yeah, we make sure that we introduce perhaps pro staff that were there that hadn't been introduced before. But, this time around, we are incorporating games, or just simply, and the idea of games, I think gamifying, whether it is all of the events that we have, but definitely some of these extra initiatives that we have created have proven very, very useful. Obviously, it certainly limits the amount to which you can, sort of reach out to the student for many reasons, right? Not even necessarily on the side of us not being able to provide everything that that we'd like to, but even more on a operational side for the student. Maybe not all of them have access to the internet, at least to the extent that they would like to. Now there's a higher need for them to have a job, all these different things. So, we definitely keep our, we get a lot of feedback, and we try to get as much feedback from students so that we can kind of shape and mold these different events that we have. And, it happens on a live basis. So yeah, it's difficult, but it's proven to be a space for us to get creative, without a doubt.
I think the only thing that I would add to that, although it's been something that has been part of the curriculum in the past, really looking at the university seminar 1-unit course and providing some emphasis on co-curricular involvement and community building, and really starting the USEM at that place. So really emphasizing the importance of community and connection, and how you're able to build that in the virtual environment from day one has been something that's been really important to us, that we have kind of reformatted or reconfigured in this space.
And I see that there's a question of what would you recommend to transfer students who are commuting in terms of getting involved with the pathways and initiatives? I would say that the first thing would be to get in contact with our Commuter Life advisor, for the simple fact that, we want to make sure that we're personalizing the rest of their experience, whether it's like 2-3 years or 1 year, however it is that they have left, so that, we can make the most out of their time, right? To make sure that that resume is ready to go. And, something that I tell the students all the time is like, this wasn't necessarily the goal, right? Getting here. Like, of course, it's a great milestone that you should be extremely proud of, but the goal is for you to be ready to actually enter the workforce. And as we put it in our university seminars, live the life that you would love living. But Anna Victoria, what I would say is just get involved, right? At the end of the day, get involved, find ways to definitely put yourself out there, find, especially going on Presence, which is our portal, and Caryl, if you wouldn't mind putting the website on there, which is where we are putting, or rather where we are centralizing or putting down all of the different events that are happening at the university, all the different student organizations that are out there. But, especially for those transfer students, A4CI, the Alliance for Commuter Involvement, will prove very useful.
I have one question. I'm the undergrad advisor in the School of Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences. And definitely have seen so much success in terms of, like you're saying, mentorship and partnerships with older students. How can we, I mean, I think for sure, like you're mentioning the pathways in the freshman year, but how to make sure students are actually reaching that advisor within the commuter life area? Like, is there a way that you recommend making sure that they get there other than just like sending them an abundance of emails, putting it on Instagram, like a way of tracking that they are actually getting there in that way?
Sorry, go for it, Caryl. I was going to say something that we've seen that actually has been useful is the idea of a warm handoff, in the sense that if you know of a student that is interested, but may say so at the moment, but then it's like, I actually don't need it. I don't know if I will. Just the whole idea of like, hey, so-and-so, I'd like to copy Rogelio. He's the so-and-so. He'll be able to help you out. Because then at that point, at least we know the student, right? And even if they don't respond, now we know who they are. So we know that's been one of the things that had worked the most, especially over the summer, knowing all these questions that we got with enrollment and majors and all these things. So if that, it would either be that or just contacting us and, letting us know of the student so that we can reach out to the student.
Perfect. Thank you.
What do you think, Caryl, if there's anything else?
I have a question kind of related to that. It's Thelma. Hi.
Hi, Thelma.
Will you and your advisors maybe be utilizing EAB? Because then we can see in there as advisors if they followed, like we spoke to and we referred them to, Rogelio or Commuter Life.
That's a great point. We started using EAB this past summer. So as part of our outreach efforts to incoming students, that was one of the ways that we engaged and communicated with. We've also participated in some of the affinity groups that are reaching out through EAB. And so our team's definitely connected there.
Other questions or comments or thoughts for either Caryl or Rogelio? I'm going to put, as I promised, put the evaluation link in there just in case anybody's thinking about hopping off. Put questions, thoughts?
I have one random kind of just like SLL question. In terms of presence, how are students getting made aware of presence? Because anytime I feel like I bring it up with one student, they're like, I don't really know, like they're kind of unfamiliar. So like what should they know, I guess, at this point about it?
Great question. So they should know that it exists. They should know that it's a co-curricular engagement tool, that they can log in and kind of see their engagement over the course and period of time. And they should be able to understand how to search for events and organizations. One of the things that we also, as I kind of mentioned, especially in this virtual environment, our first module for the university seminar, and this was for commuter students, students that we're terming as distance learners. So those that aren't living in the residence halls, but are true commuters who live in the local service area. And then our residential students. So all incoming first-time freshmen should have at least some base knowledge. It's also something for students who might be sophomores, juniors, seniors, so on and so forth. They would have learned about presence in new student orientation and receive follow-up communication as they're engaging throughout. Those that are in student organizations would also have access to actually using the platform to market their programs and events as well.
Thank you.
And if there's any, this is just kind of an aside, but if there is anyone who's interested in getting up and running or your areas and departments up and running on presence, I'm happy to talk with you offline about how to accomplish that.
Caryl is the local presence guru. all things presence go to Caryl.
Yep.
If there are no other questions or comments, we can wrap up. I am recording, so people have that. Caryl, if you could send me your slides as well, we're kind of collecting everything on the website. As I mentioned, we're doing this sort of every Wednesday throughout pretty much the whole year. And as Caryl mentioned, the next few weeks in a row are student life and leadership in the other areas within SLL. So hopefully folks can join us for those as well. But I just want to say thank you to both Caryl and Rogelio for all the information. I've said, and people have heard me say before, I organize this series pretty much almost as much for me as for the rest of the campus community, because I'm trying to learn as much as I can about what's going on around the division, around the campus. And these have been super helpful. So thank you so much. Thank you all for making some time to be here today. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.